Hello and welcome to the Average Old Guy. I'm TJ the Old Guy, and today I'm at a Doak Park in Thomasville, North Carolina, and I'm going to skate the new half pipe out here, there. But first I thought I would do something I've been really reluctant to do for a long time, and that's I'm going to do a tutorial video about dropping in, because I think if you're an older skater and you're just starting skating, like I didn't come from a skating background. I skateboarded as a kid, but never inline skated. So I don't have any skating background. I'm not coming back to skating. And I didn't start until I was 62. And I have to say, dropping in was probably one of the scariest things I've done. And to be honest, it's still scary on a lot of walls, which is why I didn't really want to shoot a tutorial. But I think I have some things to offer you. If you're an older skater and you're just coming into it, you're not getting back into it, but you're coming into it from scratch. Maybe I have a few tips and pointers that can help kind of alleviate some of the fear and help you master dropping in. Again, I'm not an expert by any means, but up to about 6 feet, I can drop in on most any wall. There are some exceptions, and I'll talk about those. But let's get into some things that you see a lot of tutorials, and they're all good, but they're all young skaters. And us older people have a couple of issues that might help us or hinder us. So let's talk about some things that I don't think are very helpful, and then some things that are very helpful. Now, one of the first things people tell you on skateboards and skating is to find a bank like this. So this is a fun box. It's like 2 feet, 2.5 feet, and work on rolling the bank. And let me show you what I mean by that, and then I'll tell you some pitfalls to this. So people will tell you to stand, get on the edge of the bank and get on the edge and then roll in. So again, it's get to the edge of the bank and then roll in. To me, there are a couple big problems with that. Number one is if your H-block doesn't touch the edges, if the bank is not steep enough, let's say, and your H-block doesn't touch the edge and kind of hold you there, it's really difficult to feel stationary like you would at the top of a ramp. So for me, like this is that's not a very big slope. And I do have a wall at my home park that is sloped enough that my H-block grabs. But I would say in general, on a fun box like this, I just did not find a whole lot of crossover from the fun box to the ramp. It's not very steep, and the edge doesn't hold my H-block. So I think, maybe if you can't ride down a bank at all, you don't probably need to be dropping in. But if you're already comfortable riding down a bank, I honestly don't think that has a lot of crossover to learning how to drop in. And while I don't find that helpful, there are a couple things that I do find helpful. So let's talk about those. One of the biggest issues to me is just looking down, looking down from the top. So let's get a bird's eye view here. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but looking down from here, this is my eye level. This is a 3-foot ramp. I'm 5'8", so it's probably a good almost 8 feet down there to the ground. And man, that's a long way down. It just looks like a long way down. What I found really helpful for me, and this may look stupid if you're at a park full of people, but I've still done it, get down low. Get down on your knees, lay down, and look at it from down here. That is just so much less of a bank. It's 3 feet. It's 3 feet to the ground. It doesn't look that bad. So number one is kind of do what you can to lessen the impact of the height. And now let's go down to the bottom and do the same thing. So I'm standing down here at the bottom, and this is not a high wall. It comes up to my waist. And especially if I get down low and look at that, that just does not look like a bad drop at all. So, that's the number one thing I encourage you, is just do what you can to make the drop the size that it really is. This is a 3-foot drop. It's not, when your feet are on the coping, it's 3 feet to the ground. It's not 8 feet to the ground, even though it looks like 8 feet to the ground. So just lay down on it, squat down on it, do whatever you can to minimize the look of that drop so it's not quite so intimidating. And secondly, while I love mini ramps, and I'm so glad we got this mini ramp over here, the thought of learning how to drop in right here and going straight into that is scary, because if you're not good at getting up on the other side, or you're not good at front side stalls or backing down, it's really intimidating to think about, what am I going to do when I hit that other side? So that to me is second thing, is you got to find a place. Luckily this park, and this is where I learned how to drop in, has this side. So it goes here and it goes into the bank. You know, and the bank is scary to be right in front of you, but it's not as scary as another quarter pipe. You know, I can ride up the bank. You know, I don't have any problem riding up that bank. And if you work on it to where you feel comfortable riding up and down a bank, dropping in and going up the bank should not be a problem for you. All right, now let's talk about foot position, because I think that's something that kind of gets ignored. At least for me, it seemed like it made a big difference in what I did with my feet versus what I saw on tutorials. Now, generally when you skate, I skate when I'm going down any kind of incline at all, I tend to like stagger my feet. So if I'm riding down this bank over here, I'm gonna ride down with my feet staggered. I'm not gonna have my feet side by side, because if my feet are side by side, that's not very stable. I don't really have anything to stop me from falling frontwards or backwards. And if you're like me, falling backwards on a stall or falling backwards on a drop-in is probably the scariest. I hate falling backwards, and that's the scariest part of a drop-in, is that initial thinking you're gonna fall backwards. And so let me show you what I do that helps me get over that fear of falling backwards. A lot of tutorials will tell you to put your feet on the coping and just lean forward. And that, if your feet are side by side like this, that is not a very stable way to do it. So for me, I've learned two different ways to handle that. One is put my feet on the coping like that, if you've got a good coping, because that's kind of scary standing there, and take whatever my forward foot is, which for me is my left foot, and just pick it up and place it on the ramp. So the first is to lean forward and just kind of make that foot go first. Do not try to go both feet at the same time. So again, you're so much more stable if you'll spread your feet out and not try to do them side by side. And so for me, another thing that I do, especially if the coping, and this is how I generally drop in everywhere, if the coping is really thin and you don't feel comfortable on it, I put whatever foot is going to be my back foot on the coping, and I just take my front foot and kind of step in. So again, place your back foot, what's going to be your back foot on the coping, and step in. And so by default, that kind of forces you to be in that staggered stance. And I do that on every wall. For me, that's just way more comfortable than doing my feet like in a stall position and rolling forward. So for me, just step on the coping and just put my foot down. And the other piece of advice I would give you is don't spin long on the coping. Especially if you're new, skateboarding is like the same, it's the same thing. People get up here and they just stand, and you get frozen, and the fear starts, your legs get tight, your body gets tight. If you're doing that, get off, back away from it, and try again. So make up your mind before you get up here that you're gonna drop in. And when you get up here, you come up here, you get to the wall, go. Now let's talk about the kind of ramps. Obviously this 3-foot ramp right here is perfect. If you'll come from the side and look at this guy, it's not even close to vertical. It's really not much more slope than a good bank. It does have a curve, which throws me on backside stalls terribly, but it's really not much more curved than a bank. And the same thing over here with this 4-foot wall. This one, is just not, it's not terribly curved. It's not steep. It's got a good run out at the bottom, and that's what you got to avoid. You need to avoid short, steep walls. I know we've got some at our other park that are only maybe a foot and a half, but they go whoop down, and they're so incredibly hard to learn on. And I watch people try to skateboard there, and you fly out every time because the transition is just so quick. And those are the kind of walls I still have problems with. I have a terrible time trying to drop in on a wall with a quick transition, because as you get older, your legs just don't move that fast. Seth can drop in on a wall that's almost straight down and J hooks at the bottom. And for me, I can't move my feet that fast. This new half pipe, look at that. That's perfect. That's a perfect drop in. But again, if you're up there and you're facing that other side and you don't know what to do, that's a scary way to drop in. So I would encourage you, if you can find a wall that doesn't have anything in front of it, it's got a beautiful slope, just work on some of those techniques I just showed you. Kind of do what you can to make it smaller. Lean down on it, look at it from the ground, and just know that from your feet to the bottom is nowhere near as high as from your head to the bottom. And secondly, make sure you're not trying to drop in with your feet together. Make sure that you always stagger your feet somehow, whether you want to stagger them right off the coping or whether you want to step onto it like I do. You need to go down with your feet staggered, because then you're so much less likely to fall backwards. Squat down as much as you can. I have a hard time squatting down on that back leg, but I still try to squat down a little bit, and it does make it easier. So again, it's a scary thing, but once you do it, it becomes one of the funnest things in skating. I mean, I have to say, I love dropping in. Just the feeling of standing on that wall and dropping in is incredible. And it's one of those feelings that I can't, it's just hard to describe to somebody who doesn't skate what it feels like to stand up on the edge and drop in. So I encourage you to find a good place, wear pads. I have all kinds of pads on, even got my padded butt on today because I'm gonna ride the half pipe. But you know, find some good pads, wear a good helmet, good wrist guards, and you know, you're probably going to take a few bumps, but just try to find a place that's as easy, it's got a best slope as possible. It's got a decent coping on the top that you can lock your H-blocks into so that you don't roll when you're up there, and give it a shot. One last thing I want to mention on the drop-ins, and that once you get one, never stop. One thing I always made sure of was, no matter what I was doing at any given time at any park, I would do 10 drop-ins. Even if all I was doing that night was working on skating backwards, I had no reason to drop in, I would always do a minimum of 10. A lot of nights I do way more than 10 if I was doing stuff where I had to drop in, but even the nights where I did nothing that required a drop in, I did 10. And you figure, you know, 10 days of doing that, that's 100 drop-ins. So I would say at this point, I've done thousands. Does that make me an expert? No, it doesn't. But just keep at it, and once you get it, never stop. And always, when you go to a new park, find a wall and try to drop in on it. As long as it's within your skill level, just always try to drop in, and even do 10 on a new wall. So that'll really get your skills going. So I hope this has been helpful for you. Some of these things probably would have helped me when I was first learning if I'd have known, especially like not just putting my feet on the coping and rolling in. Spreading them out and doing a scissor is incredibly helpful, because it takes away a lot of the imbalance. So again, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. Let me know in the comments if you found this helpful. And like always, I appreciate you guys watching. If you want to see more of this kind of content, hit that like and subscribe. And so until next time, from Doak Park in Thomasville, North Carolina, we'll see you on the next one.